Hey folks, it is October the 2nd, and today we are discussing a couple more pages out of chapter 12 that has to do with what happened after the Persian Wars and before the Peloponnesian War. Huh? Yeah, he's a Spartan general. Pausanias. Lydia. No, Lydia is it's east of Greece. It's kind of like, think of it almost as in between Greece and Persia. Hey, so the terms we have on the board are: why did Athens want a wall? How did Sparta feel? Themistocles' trick, Pausanias, and Themistocles in Persia. So we're going to discuss this, but remember, it's also your job to make sure you actually read the chapters. So, yeah. Really?
I was born in Lydia.
I didn't know that. See, you know something. It's good, good. Where'd you find that out?
So what was Themistocles'
trick?
Was that when he betrayed them?
Say what again? Yeah. Well, think about his trick regarding the wall.
Well, he told them that he wasn't gonna build the wall, but he still built the wall.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna build the wall. Just don't look over here for 10 years and we're good. Something like that.
Something like that.
He told
See, you got the
Sparta.
gist of it.
He told Sparta.
Yeah, that they weren't gonna build the wall.
Yeah, I only have a couple of pictures today. So yeah, the walls they built were huge, and if you
7 miles
remember,
long.
yeah, the one going to the ocean to their harbor, yeah, and it was 30 feet tall, big enough for 2 chariots to ride side by side.
And they had
Age of
women working too.
Empires.
It said they had women working.
Age of Empires.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it was
That walls are
totally
huge.
huge. Some of the ruins are still around today, and so. Yeah, this is in Greece. This is outside of Athens. This is some of that wall that they built. Some of it's left over. And so they had to cut the stones for this. They took a lot of this building material from the ruins of their city after the Persians had destroyed it. And so, I mean, they're like, hey, before we do anything else, before we rebuild our temples, our public areas, or even a lot of their own homes, they were spending their time building up defenses. And you can understand why. They have been invaded and threatened to be destroyed twice. They watched their homes get burned, and now they're like, we don't want this to ever happen again. Yeah, it did, but they lived, and they got ready. They said, fool me twice, but not again. So Sparta, as you remember, didn't like this because Spartans wanted to be the strongest military in Greece. But remember, because of their lack of innovation, technology, and education, they didn't know how to build siege weapons and take down cities or to roll down walls.
Or just under.
Well, yeah, or like we call that sapping. They didn't know how to do any of that. So they didn't want other Greeks to have walls. It was a position of power. Now, this is that harbor they were talking about. This is going to be a big thing. So yeah, remember, the Athenians are becoming the biggest, most powerful navy in the world right now. They had the old harbor here, but this one, you see, it's protected. They keep their boats here, and if they can wall this off, they can keep their ships protected.
That's a long.
It is. Why are they what?
That's just dumb.
How's it done?
But the thing is, nobody could take them because of this. It's so long. So the city was already here. This is where everybody lives, where their sacred temples were, this is where their culture was.
What would suck is if someone got inside, how are they gonna get out?
That's true, but that's actually not going to happen. The Athenians are eventually going to quit later, we're going to see, for other reasons. So yeah, they have, their navy is protected here. Think about it like in modern terms. Think if it was like an Air Force base, you would want to keep that as protected as possible. So yeah, this is where their navy is. They're all set up here, all their boats. It has walls defending it from the ocean, from the land. So that means where used to be armies could come in and destroy their city, now nobody can do it because these walls are gigantic.
So is this the scale?
Yeah, it looks, see, there's a scale in miles. So yeah, it's built to scale. So
So that is why, how big are their chariots?
Pretty big, I'd imagine. Now, the line is probably not to scale as far as thickness, but think about distance. The distance is to scale. So, you see, the city of Athens is only that big, and then you've got the wall. So long.
The thing is, in a siege, all they'd have to do is bring up siege ladders, and they'd have to defend that entire wall.
True,
Or you can just have troops on either side.
but we're going to see later that
They go
the
on either side of the
Athenians
wall, and then they
are going to be very good at defending their walls. So, because, well, for one, their attackers, sure, they can have ladders and things like that. The Athenians will have good archers, early
You
artillery.
just see someone climbing up
They
the
can
ladder.
really are
Spears,
Oh, yeah, like catapults and stuff.
Jonas, this
Well,
is the
in
ladder
land
to the wall.
warfare,
So
yes.
we just come go.
And if they tried to scale the wall. But the thing is about walls, walls work. They always work. Like, the walls are going to be the prime mode of defense for people until the Ottomans start using giant cannons against places like Byzantium and stuff like that. And then walls are going to turn into rubble and they're not going to count anymore.
You said walls always work?
They do for
Trump
city
wall didn't work?
defenses. Huh?
Trump wall didn't work very good.
I'm talking about
Built
ancient
that.
cities. I'm talking about ancient cities.
Um,
So like as far as sieging goes.
Mr. Weiner, if they
Yeah.
put a ladder against the wall, can't someone just come and push the
Yeah,
ladder?
but I say.
And that's one thing people do, they'll push the ladder, or they might do things like,
I was there.
we see often in a lot of places, especially when it's like walls, like in a more central area, they might have things like boiling oil and stuff like that to dump on the soldiers.
Oh, no.
They'll throw boulders on them.
They used to have this thing
arrows.
in walls where they would have holes that they would have like a crawl through, and then they'd like throw stuff at them, and sometimes they'd pour like
Mhm.
hot liquid at them.
Yeah,
They make them crawl through like holes to get inside of their wall.
later we're gonna see Greeks are gonna have early flamethrowers, and so whenever they try to climb walls or get their boats up, they're gonna douse them with like napalm, and they're just gonna turn them into crispy critters. Yeah.
There's a castle in
That
Sweden
sounds painful.
that has false bricks all along the walls. And so if you bring a siege ladder or something up, they can, poke a bow through.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's one thing that it's like, yeah, in the Middle Ages, especially the late Middle Ages and early Renaissance, we see that, yeah, castle building is going to become like a science in itself. Just all the ways that they think of using the technology they had
They had to
to
have
make it defensible.
cannonballs.
Not that big.
Well, yeah, we don't have cannonballs yet. I mean,
We didn't have cannons.
It's 431 BC.
in China, yeah, we're seeing some small cannons, hand cannons and stuff like that,
It's
but
gunpowder.
not here.
Hey,
It's gunpowder.
That's fun when they start experimenting with
Ew.
gunpowder.
No, that was the Ark.
They were trying to make gold, but they made gunpowder.
Yeah,
Which is a
yeah,
lot
so.
more useful than
Mr.
gold.
Weiner,
Well, it's because alchemy is one of those things people tried out all around the world, and sometimes it works to make something just
Mr.
through
Weiner.
experimentation. No,
Oh,
But
I know
the
they start
gunpowder is a lot more
experimenting
useful than
with
gold.
gunpowder.
who?
When they start experimenting with gunpowder.
I'm sure there were some accidents. The thing is, gunpowder is only like whenever it's not under like inside of something, it doesn't build pressure because all that gunpowder does is just ignite, and when it ignites, it makes gas. But if you set gunpowder on fire, just like in a pile, all it does is make a little flame. But yeah, if it's enclosed in something, then that gas builds up pressure and can make it pop, which is what happens to
A lot of things.
a lot of things.
Weren't there bombs that they would make with?
Yeah, we call it propellant. Yeah.
Did they ever tell people to fix the
The bombs they used to use,
I don't know.
weren't they just like a ball that would heat up and just melt through the boat? Like that would just.
No,
Hot shot.
they blew up in the shrapnel and hit the soldier.
Is there, I don't know where I read this, there's like a bomb,
It's called a hot shot.
they called it a bomb, it would just heat up, like they would like, it wouldn't explode, it would just
Hot
heat up and set the boat on fire.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, incendiaries areas were used a lot. I mean, even like these guys, they would have like burning pitch on like arrows or small catapults or mini ballista and stuff like that, and shoot them at boats, especially and stuff like that.
They can make arrows fall, like it's heavy.
It was heavier for sure, right? Because like if you ever shoot a bow, you notice that. But the thing is, if the pitch is like one thing that Greeks had is they used a lot of times in their torches, they used something called asbestos. And asbestos is something we used to use in pipes and stuff like that. They found out it's cancerous. It causes like lung disease, but it burns really well. It's just like a powder and it burns really, really, really well. And so they could put that on arrows, but they usually kept them on torches for light. And so they set boats on.
Also, wouldn't the air moving past the arrow without the fire?
Not if it's a very flammable substance. And so that's why flaming arrows was like such a big thing for such a long time. Hey, Jade, you okay? Can you set up for me? Sit all the way up. Can you take your hoodie off? Thanks, buddy, for taking your hoodie off. Yes.
The Ottomans,
I know the Ottomans were really big into grenadiers, but no, I think that was probably Chinese. I think it was Chinese.
Fireworks are using off like rockets.
Yeah, the rockets and stuff like that. The Japanese will pick that up as well.
Instead of like they were using it for like fire tactics, but it turned out to just become a bomb.
Hey, Jay,
So we were using it-
I gotta take your arms out too, buddy. You can lay it in your lap if you want to, but that still counts as wearing it. Sorry. Hey, let's go ahead and get this for now. I'm glad you are so interested. That's good.
Like that.
All right.
I like talking about exploding things.
Yeah.
We know.
It's very.
You should think about that in your
I'm
career
just
choices in life.
tired.
You're just tired. He's just tired. Tired.
Man, I'm tired.
All right. So I heard Timothy. What did you say? Why did Athens want a wall again?
Just protect themselves.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what everyone wants to know.
Yeah. Why did they feel like they needed protection?
Because they got all the riches from the war. So everyone.
Okay, because
They didn't have homes.
wealth, homes, and Tristan. What did you
They
say?
were attacked and burned twice.
Yeah. So yeah, attacked before. Oops. And yeah, they were like, why build homes if we don't have protection? And yeah, need
I forgot to say that.
new homes. All right, so cool stuff. All right, so how did Sparta feel about this? We talked about this before.
They're like, how dare you build a wall without like our permission?
Yeah. So they're intimidated, right? A lot of what Sparta does, even though they say they're the toughest guys around, is out of fear. Yes.
What is that under that?
Need new homes.
It's the and sign, you know?
Yeah, and need new homes. Yeah, I'm sorry, I wrote all sloppy. I was trying to listen.
What does that say before?
All right,
Dan.
to protect themselves, wealth, attacked before, and they need new homes. All right, so how did Sparta feel? So we said that,
Sparta did not like
yeah,
October.
did not like, let's see, felt afraid,
Nice.
see, could not overcome
Where's your energy drinks?
walls. So yeah, they had no
I had to look at this.
They had no knowledge of siege warfare. The Spartan idea of siege warfare is to surround the city and try to starve the people in it. But Athens is smart because they have this harbor. They can trade for food and bring in food through the boats. And then they just bring food up to the city. Remember, they made this wall big enough that even the country folk, the farmers and stuff, could live in it too.
I didn't even know the description of all that.
It's 2 chariots wide. So does that mean this is where the first road came from?
The
Where
highway.
there's some people going one way and the other people going.
Well, they already have roads,
But
but I see what you're
I
saying.
assume it goes one way.
You could think of this as maybe the first overpass. So, all right, kids. So now, how did Themistocles buy time? How did he how did he get the Spartans to like pull their jets for a minute?
Hostages.
Okay, but before the hostages, what did he tell the Spartans?
Told them that they
We're not gonna build the wall.
Yeah. So
You ruined my
I actually did it. No problem. So told Sparta.
You're not showing.
So I'm gonna put a lie.
I'm as well.
What's for that?
Stop it. They wouldn't. So first he lied, build a wall, and then how did he delay them? He sent,
People to talk about how much they're not gonna build that wall.
sent envoys who will be hostages later, yeah. And when we're talking about hostages here, we're not talking like a bank robber.
Like in ancient times, hostage taking was normal. Usually what you did, if you like conquered a place, you might take their children as hostages. And so that if they ever try to fight you again, you got their kids.
You can kill the kids.
An extremely
You
gruesome
Well, you
way.
keep them safe, but yeah, the
Children
city
aren't
doesn't
bad.
do
Yeah,
that.
well, that's what I'm saying, like.
Children don't have a say so. What are they gonna do? Make their
What are they gonna
make
do?
their-
Tell their parents?
Yeah, they're gonna make their captors mad at them? No way. Like,
Yell
that's not-
really loud.
Kids
Kings would do this all the time too. Whenever
Yeah.
kings would have war, and then the kings made peace, in the peace treaty, they would both agree to give up one of their children and trade a child as hostages. So that if the kings would be like, hey, if I ever go to war with that king again, he's gonna kill my son. So they would think about that.
Dang.
I thought that'd be awkward.
Right. Well, yeah. Since we're gonna see that Alexander the Great's father is actually gonna be a hostage. So send envoys to delay. While Athenians worked. So yeah, it's like you get the women, the children, they're like taking apart like the cemeteries. They're like digging up tombstones and like stacking it to make
Instead
more
of women
wall.
working like men, then the kids were helping
And then
take after
what?
people that are born.
Yeah.
They don't want to use
So
it.
there, it's like everybody's just like, well, everybody remembers it. Like these are the people who watched the war, fought in the war. A lot of them had relatives who were dead. They saw the ruins of their city, and they knew that, well, the persons are super rich, and there's like millions of them. They're probably going to do this again. So they're like, it's like they're trying to stop the end of the world.
How
So
is Athens, the city, gonna expand?
it's going to be through its navy. We're going to see later. They're
No,
going
like
to
the
make
city
it
itself can't grow. Really,
Well,
outside of the wall.
They can't now, but they're not gonna worry about that. They're not gonna be that big. Usually what like cities do later on, like medieval cities, they'll have like the old wall
I feel like
and then people will build around it. And then eventually they'll build another wall around that. And then people will build cities around that. Like some cities we have like 3 walls, 3 to 4 walls. Because it'd be the old one, then they make a new one, and then a new one. So, yeah, but it's also good defensively, because if enemies come in, they take the first wall, everybody can flee behind the second one, third, so forth. Hey, what about this guy? Hey, Jaden, sit up straight. Go ahead and sit up for me.
Yeah, he's fine.
Come on. Straighten your back out.
Now you're gonna fall asleep.
Come on, man, sit
You're
up.
trying to.
You can sit up or stand up. It's up to you. All right. Don't make me choose for you. Sit up. Thanks. There you go. Yeah, put your chest out. All right. So, Pausanias, he was a general for who? Sparta. So, Spartan general. And remember, he was a big hero in the Persian Wars.
Yeah.
And what's he going to do, though? What's he going to try to do?
Everything
He
is
turns to Persia because he is weird.
Greedy.
Yeah, he will betray the Greeks and join Persia. The Spartans managed to get him back home, though. How are they going to get rid of him? He's going to flee somewhere for safety.
The Acropolis, Temple.
The Temple of.
He called them and said that.
Athena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he fled to, and remember,
It says betray the Greeks. Yep.
yeah.
And they
So-
starve them and then they give them 2 bronze statues.
And remember that this was called sanctuary. So when you went to a temple or what they considered a holy place, you couldn't arrest people or kill them.
So you had to get around that. They just like, they bricked up the wall, or I mean the door, so he couldn't get out.
I think
So
there's just no egg.
he
They're nice
was-
guys, those
They're
Spartans.
very nice.
Yeah, so he was shut in.
Starve you,
And
throw you in a
starve.
well, stab you multiple times with spears. bury
So
you
that was
halfway
pretty
there.
brutal, right? They were like, so they're like, hey, they found kind of like a legal loophole, right?
Yeah, they're like, we're super stupid.
Yeah, Athena.
Yeah, we'll follow the letter of the law because
Yeah. So remember, the Spartans are super superstitious. So they're like, hey, we did the rules. We totally did what you told us to. Sorry if somebody happened to die while we were doing it. I mean, he was a bad
I mean,
guy.
you didn't technically say that we couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
therefore,
We didn't kill him, he just said and then starved.
Yeah, it was natural causes. He didn't have enough food.
Surprise, we're not-
yeah, we just threw him off the cliff. He didn't die. It was the fall that killed him.
There you go. Now you're thinking like an attorney. All right, so Themistocles. Yeah, it is
Behold,
creepy though.
we must
Uh,
punish gravity.
All right, so
Okay.
but we see that it's not just him.
Orange
It's
is-
not just Pausanias. We see that somebody else is going to be like, you know what? I'm kind of tired of not being super
Mr.
rich.
Wagner, imagine Xerxes tries to punish gravity. He just whip in the air.
I guess.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what.
Maybe kindergartens again, we did
Orange is the
Sorry.
one.
No.
Orange is the
Not
one we
okay.
haven't done.
But kindergarten didn't do naps here. And here.
That's what my sister said.
Mr. White, no,
What?
orange. Orange is, you already did blue. Orange is
Mr.
blue.
White
Yeah,
nurse.
I want to use blue.
I'm starting to heat.
Oh yeah, I use blue. Okay, I'll use orange. Hey,
You're welcome.
what
They do not have the lower campus.
they do?
Okay, he does kind of look like Spider-Man.
That's weird because a lot of kindergartens don't do that anymore.
No, they just started it, I think.
Really?
Cause I have my cousins, like,
Mr. White.
One sec.
I was selling at the store and they were buying mats, cause they asked for them.
I only got naps and green.
But you got Hey, all right, let's get our last one. So Themistocles, what does he decide to do now?
He runs away to Persia.
Yeah, so he runs away to Persia too. He wants the money. And see, the Greeks, if there's one thing you may have noticed in Athens, they get tired of somebody being in charge and then they eventually turn against them. Themistocles is an example of this. He's been a famous guy. The Athenians love him, but this is a characteristic of a straight, direct democracy. People, they get super popular. They're basically worshipped, but then one day the democracy turns against them.
Just like in America.
Yep.
Well,
Nobody likes the candidate until they get elected.
Stop doing that.
There's a case to make for that. There's a case to make for that. So runs away to Persia. What's Xerxes gonna do? Xerxes.
Welcome to-
Yeah, Xerxes welcomes him, and then he asks him to do what?
We did a siege.
Yeah. And ask that.
I think it's like many years later kind of thing though.
You're right. He fights Athens. So what does he choose?
He kills
Themistocles.
himself.
Yeah, Themistocles doesn't see a way out of it tragically.
Like Ajax.
Yeah. So yeah, he
And
takes his own life. So yeah, it's pretty tragic. He doesn't see a way out of this situation. And remember, the Greeks didn't have a very cheerful outlook on the afterlife anyway, so we didn't probably worry too much about that. These are pre-Judeo-Christian people. So yeah, I mean, he doesn't see a way out of it. He sees that his honor's lost either way. And he's like, forget it. So he spent the last few years of his life getting meat, bread, and wine from Persians, all kinds of wealth and stuff. So, and pillows and all that. So,
He's like, I don't care anymore, just kill me.
so
okay.
here's my question for you. So I gave you, this is going to be in 3 parts. The Life of Themistocles by the author Plutarch. We've had Plutarch. Yeah, Plutarch's the guy who wrote that one I gave you on Lycurgus. So he's a biographer.
7 pages.
Yeah, it was like 8 pages or so. So Plutarch was a biographer who actually, he was from Greece, but he's going to be around in the time of the Roman Empire. He's actually going to be a governor and an author during the time of the Emperor Nero. And he's going to write these lives about ancient Greeks and Romans. It's kind of like lessons for our time, for the future. So when you were reading Themistocles' life on the beginning part, we'll get to the next part next week. It talked about his upbringing and stuff, right? What were some of the things about his upbringing in his childhood? You remember?
I forgot, actually.
Forgot?
I know I wrote like many notes.
You wrote many notes and you forgot? Well, hey, I tell you what, don't lose that. Because if I don't feel that we're actually reading this, then I'm going to have to attach an assignment on it.
No, you better not.
I read it, I promise I read it.
But I'm not convinced anyone read it because I just asked a very broad, basic question. And I got a lot of looks like I don't know what you're talking about. So,
I read it.
my suggestion is to you is to make sure you read it because we're going to take the entire chapter and I'm going to have you write a 2-page essay over it.
What?
What?
If I'm not convinced you're
What was the
participating.
question you asked?
The chapter.
I didn't-
What did the author tell us about Themistocles' childhood?
Oh, yeah.
No, yeah, like what?
It was like
Like,
pretty
he was-
lame. His life.
Pretty
That's
lame.
true.
Why?
Like,
Yeah,
he
oh,
wasn't
yeah,
born of pure Greek blood.
Yeah.
His
I
mother
saw
was
that.
like-
He was
When his
abandoned by
mother
his
did-
parents.
His mother, like, said
No,
poem,
no,
and, like, had a poem thing,
Shut up,
but
I'm
then
not.
we were like, but then we're not sure what's right.
What is-
Oh, okay.
what's
His
his mom
mother's like
having now?
pathological liar.
Yes, yes.
Can I go?
So, what?
Can I go?
And it was
Here you go.
it was weird for him because.
Yeah, so it wasn't like, it was kind of a race thing, wasn't it? Because they saw him as part barbarian, they call him. So they were like, you're not even fully an Athenian. You're not like the rest of us. So he had to try hard to fit into society because they saw him as an outsider.
And then he became something big.
Yeah, and I'm going to get y'all another part of this next week. It'll probably be around Wednesday or so. We don't have a quiz. We don't have a test next week. We will have a test in like 2 weeks. So
That makes sense.
It was just 3 weeks yesterday.
yeah, well, I'm trying to do like every other week, like nothing quiz, nothing test, nothing quiz, nothing test. That's what I'm trying to do. All right, folks. We're going to end the lecture for today. We're going to talk about the rest of
Yeah,
chapter
folks.
12 when we come back on Monday. See you later.
All right, so do we have study hall now?